Years, people have been snookering my stuff. Here's a heart. I think it's a sheep heart, but you can see all the worms in the heart.
Oh my gosh.
This, of course, this did not survive. No, this is not a dog. This is a sheep heart.
Can you see where they eat it through the muscle and the tissue?
No, you have to dissect it, and I wanted to keep it like this because it really shows the worms in it, right? And I wanted people to be able to see that. Yes, ma'am.
No, I'm recording.
Okay.
What kind of worms are those?
Well, I don't know what the species is, but the one that causes heartworm problems in dogs is called Dirofilaria. Okay. These are intestines. They have Trachea tracheus in them, the whipworm. And you might think, well, they look pretty big, but they're really kind of small, and here they are right here. You see them? You see them?
Oh. These aren't the pinworms, right?
No, these
Okay.
no. These are tracheas. These are whipworm.
Okay.
Okay, and there's a bunch of them. It's loaded inside of here. Loaded. Okay? So there are two of these. And then I have roundworms that one of my students collected and brought them for me.
From where?
Yeah.
An animal that he was a rancher and I don't remember the story. He just said, here you go, do you want these? I'm like, yes, thank you. And here's some more. I don't know where Myra got these, but you can see that there's a whole bunch of roundworms in there. Some of these roundworms have been known to aggregate in such large numbers in the intestinal tract that they cause intestinal blockage. And sometimes they put so much pressure on them that they perforate the intestines. And when that happens, there's all kinds of other problems that can happen.
Heck yeah.
Okay. These are interesting. This was from I had a meat inspector that took my course several years back, and he was in Seguin. He called me on the phone and said, "Pro V, we just found a whole bunch of deer liver fluke, and a whole bunch of cattle. Do you want some?" I said, "Yeah, bring me a few." Well, he brought me quite a few, right? So you can see them. They're quite beautiful. Here, you can pass them around. Okay.
I love that he thinks they're
I do. I think
These
so.
are
Because that's just what I am.
trichosyllable.
Now,
Okay, and then that's the sheep part.
I,
Yeah, that's crazy.
I have a couple of other examples here, but I need to put them. I need to put them in some more solution because over the last year and a half, they've dried out. I hope they will not disintegrate when I put the formalin back in there. But this is the tapeworm. Y'all can look at that. And these are some roundworms. And I'm going to pull out the granddaddy now.
Granddaddy. The granddaddy? I don't know if it's granddaddy or granddaddy. Granddaddy.
We'll see.
So the reason I'm wearing gloves is because these things are in formalin.
Is he alive? Your wife?
No, they're dead.
Sorry. Let me see.
I know. Oh, look. Oh. Can I see that too?
I'm not
That's huge.
Oh behind you to make sure.
You said they're dead?
They're dead. So here's a male and a female. This is the female. Usually she's much bigger. Much bigger. And here's the male, and he's little compared to her.
He has the hook.
That's the
got the
whipworm,
hook.
right?
No, this
That's
is
scarce?
this is a scarce. This is right. This
Okay.
is a scarce. This is one of the more common problems that we have. Not in the States.
Gosh.
Although we do have problems, but it's not that.
That's in people?
But in other yeah. And they produce these you'll see them a little bit later. They produce these balls. They aggregate in these really like balls.
Oh my God.
And so what happens is they cause intestinal blockage. You want me to hold them up so you can take a better picture? You can show.
Why is it open like that?
Oh, it just got cut. I think one of my colleagues. I think one of my colleagues was trying to show you
How do
the
they
inside.
feel?
You're gonna-
I'm like that.
So are those the ones that like
Are they smooth?
the people eat them and then?
No, those are tapeworms.
Okay.
So-
eat
Okay.
tapeworms?
Well, yeah, the people eat tapeworms.
Look at that. Oh, that's right. To be
Not
skinny.
For as diet pills, they don't eat the worm. They eat the fertilized or
Yeah.
the immature form.
Yeah.
You can buy them, but it's against the law to bring them in the United States.
So you eat them.
Like, that's
and
a
then bring
Mexican.
them.
So you go someplace, you eat them, and you bring them in that way.
Yeah.
You're not believing me.
Oh, I believe it.
That's not the worm they put in the little tequila thing.
No.
Oh, I'm dead.
Don't tell me that. We're checking
But
that.
it's funny though because it's in the same class. It's a nematoda.
Nematoda.
Does it really get you more drunk?
The worm?
I mean, anything saturated in alcohol like that is gonna.
It's actually it's formaldehyde. It's 4% formaldehyde.
And that in the bottom of the in the tequila bottle. We're talking about tequila.
Oh,
We're still on tequila.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about my.
Why do International Tequila
Some
Day?
people are really worried about my worms, and they think they're gonna, if they touch them, they're gonna come down with them. These have been dead
Aren't
for a
they
long
dead?
time.
Yeah, they're dead, right?
Where are the
What are
worms at
these
in
ones?
here though?
What are those?
Ripworms.
Are those tricks something?
Trichurius tricure. Uh-huh.
Go.
So I don't know where they went.
Are those
I'll
those
show 'em-
little
I'll show 'em- I'll show 'em
black
here. Here they are.
Here,
This is better, I
buddy.
think.
That's a good way to remember
Here they
it.
are right here, see 'em? And they're all inside there.
Chiquita ones.
These two were from the same specimen, and they just brought us two of them.
I see some hair in there.
Hair?
Where was it from again?
I think it was cattle.
And it's all for one. What part of the?
It's
Small
definitely
intestines.
beef. It
Oh,
looks like
okay.
beef, huh? Like shredded beef.
Of course, you know the system, the digestive
she
system
said it
for
looked like
cattle, they're different,
She
right?
said he said it was from the beef, right?
These
the
were.
flukes.
This is. I think this
Oh.
is sheep.
The sheep part.
Uh-huh.
Oh, those are
Is that about the
roundworms?
size of our heart also?
No, I think ours is just a little bit, unless there's myocardia or something like that.
Yeah, oh yeah, I think it's like. Wait, this is our brain and this is our heart, right? Hey, yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to be sure you saw them for real. I mean, they're not. I mean, they're dead, but because people go through their entire life never seen a parasite. They just heard about them. They're out there.
I always have a broken chair.
All right, let's talk about the trematode. So they're the flukes. They're monaceous. So by design, Trematoda and Cestota are typically monaceous. What does that mean, Jalen? Single organism have both sex organisms. Sex organs, right? Good. So here is Clonorchus sinensis, right? They're pretty small. That's a transverse section through the liver, and you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different fluke. The body's pretty cool. If the body can't get rid of something, what it tries to do is sequester it. So it basically forms these colliculi around them. That might happen also if you break a bone. So I broke my wrist here, playing tennis, and I have really beautiful range of motion here, but this is all I got here. So the lunate bone here has been over-calcified over the years because my body is protecting me from pain. But that means I have no range of motion. I cannot go up at all, that's all I got. Well, that's because you're young and you heal properly. I'm old, I don't heal.
Probably it's 1240.
Already?
You showed us the bugs. Dang.
Oh no,
I'm
I'm
kidding.
sorry, because we get out at 120, right?
120.
So 110.
Perfect.
Alright, so very complicated life cycle. We are the definitive host here, but you can see that there's some other primary host is a snail, then there's a fish, and then if we eat fish that are improperly cooked, then we can come down with these infectious agents, but not in the States, right? This is just not gonna happen here because we have a lot of regulations and a lot of the fish that we will eat have to go through USDA. And how many people know this? Most of the fish that we eat or we buy at HEB are not wild caught. They are farmed.
But isn't that a bad thing too in a way sometimes?
Well, I like fish and I want to have my fish. So, but it's only bad because you're not getting the nutrition that you would get from a wild caught fish.
Wow.
Because
Because they get fed differently, is that why?
That's reason
They're
because
raising their tanks, so sometimes
we
they
already
get infected
overfish,
stuff too.
but we're not as
Anyway.
bad as other countries. There's some other countries out there that really overfish. Yes,
I didn't know
I
that.
have to know, is tilapia real?
Yeah.
I've never heard of anybody catching a tilapia.
you can't catch them here. They're an African fish, and so what we do is we bring them here. We grow them in a farm.
Okay.
So so some places in the world will produce these traps out in the ocean, and then they have all their fish growing in that trap, and then they go out. We grow our fish in raceways. So raceways, if you think about it, they're gonna be very long ponds, and you're gonna have the fish in there, or they're gonna be these super big old gigantic round drums, big. And the fish, they just kind of swim round and round, or they go from one into the other. But the ones that are farm raised are fed pellet food, plant material. So they're missing some of the key omegas, the omega fatty acids that we need. But they're still delicious, right? And so they're still,
And I still have some sort of.
they're still healthy, they're just not as healthy as a wild caught fish.
But you also have to be careful because there's like stuff in the ocean and floor now, so it's like.
If you cook the fish, it's gonna be okay. Right?
It kills all that.
Neurotoxin?
Neurotoxins, well, they're a protein by nature, you're just gonna denature them. That doesn't mean you should go and pick fish up that are dead, right?
Is sushi okay?
Sushi is okay, especially in the States, because sushi is not a cheap meal. Are you with me?
That is
So I mean,
not.
the last time I ate sushi, it cost over $100. I'm like, really? But, you know, they want you to come back. And so they're gonna give you the best stuff that they have. And so I never worry about sushi at all in the States. If I'm in another country, I'm a little bit more leery. Right?
Okay, Korea, there's this tank.
Oh,
Or
yeah, yeah.
that one.
So that's very common,
Fancy.
that's very common in a lot of Asian cultures, right? So if you go to the Asian market, in Omaha, you know what I'm talking about? They also have the same thing, you go in there and pick your own fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cool
At Red Lobster, can you do that?
No.
With your.
Oh, with the lobster maybe, but yeah, not with fish. Yeah. Because again, so the Koreans and the
They
Japanese,
cook it, just slice it.
oh, I know,
after.
but
Like
the
the
Koreans
thing?
and the Japanese are very concerned about health.
Yeah,
Yeah. The Japanese even more.
yeah, the longest like,
Yeah, that's true.
They don't use
That's
what?
true.
I believe the.
But they're very afraid of germs. I have a friend who's Japanese and he won't eat in my house.
Yeah, come on now, that's gotta be fair. We brought you like.
She said we can go back. Yeah, let's go back.
So, I'm just saying.
Okay. So this is another one of my favorites. This is just a summer Mansoni. This one breaks the rules of the warm world. So the rules of the warm world typically are the female is larger than the male, and the flukes are always going to be mostly monoecious. This one breaks the rules. This is dioecious, and there's a male and a female, and the male is larger. There is a male.
And the female goes inside.
And the
of it,
female girl crawls inside of it so that they can.
Wait, so the female is larger than the male?
So typically,
Okay.
Claudia, typically the female is larger, but here the male is larger.
Oh,
And
okay.
the Trematoda or just a specific?
Just
type?
this one genus.
Oh, okay,
Just
just
some.
this.
Okay?
Professor, how do we study for this?
Well, so it's gonna be by group. Do you guys, I mean, I will make the test however you want it. Do you want me just to do it by group, or do you want me to do it by individual genus and species?
So what does that mean that we're
Would you
gonna have to
prefer
know?
that I say
Oh, Trematoda?
Trematoda, or would you prefer that I say things like Schistosoma mansoni?
Trematoda.
Okay, let me see-
How do you say trematoda?
Let me see what I can do with the exam, okay? Let me see what I can do.
Because I'm just wondering how do we study for this just so much?
So this is mostly a bunch of facts, right? There's not much I can do critical thinking here. So it's mostly facts. That's why I want you all to do it in a group. That way, bunch of facts, and I would develop some kind
Oh,
of,
this is the group
some
exam?
kind of,
Oh.
some kind of strategy, right? So if I was in charge of these four people right here, me and these four people, I would say, Keon, I want you to know everything about the fungi.
I love that.
Angela, I want you to know everything about the protozoans, parasites. Cindy, I want you to know everything about the metazoan parasites. Jalen, I want you to know everything about the exoparasites, and I'm gonna cover all the viruses. And I got my group ready, we take the test together.
So we're taking the test together?
Third one.
That is so amazing.
But different groups, you're gonna take it over there with your group.
So I'm doing only virus.
No, you can do whatever you want. That's just the way I would do it. You can do whatever you want. I'm just saying that that's the way I would do it. Because then you have a specialist, right?
It's our whole group, right?
It's a whole group,
Yeah.
just this one test.
That's so beautiful.
Because there's no way I can expect you to know all of this stuff like I do. I'm not making microbiologists. I'm not making parasitologists. I'm making allied health people.
Beautiful.
So I would rather you guys have fun learning something, and if you take just 5% away from what I've talked about in this unit, I'm happy. Because there's no way you're gonna know it all.
How will we take the exam together? Are we gonna share like?
It's up to you.
Okay, so then,
How would I do? Well, everybody's gonna get a copy of the exam, but you're gonna turn them all back in, but you're gonna say, only grade this one. And it's gonna have everybody's name on it.
But we can talk amongst each other?
It's a group thing. I mean, why would you take a group test and not talk to each other? I don't know.
so then like, okay, so it's, I guess a good way to study would be how you make that chart, like, okay, this.
Everybody's different. To me, it's outline. I always outline everything. That's the way your study aids are put up. They're put in an outline format.
So like if I do really poor job on my virus stuff, they
We're
all
gonna
get
keep your
poor.
black key on.
That's right.
Yes, we're coming
You-
after.
You cannot let down your group.
Holding
Okay?
you up here.
Alright, let's go on.
I'll do an outline.
All right, so a very complicated life cycle, right? So here, we're not gonna see Schistosoma mansoni here in the States, but in other countries, where they spend a lot of time doing aquaculture, and aquaculture can be anything from growing prawn, or growing fish, or growing rice, things like that. They get in these small waiting areas, and you can see the cercaria are in here. They'll penetrate the skin, and then they'll get into the blood. This is a blood fluke, right? Schistosoma mansoni.
How common is that?
And not in the United States,
No,
Zippo.
But where is that?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the statistics in a long time. Less than 1% of the population. Here is probably the one that Carolina was talking about. This one is a massive organism. It is huge. This is Fasciola hepatica.
Oh, gosh.
So you can see that there's only 2 here, but it's taking up about 1/8 of the total mass of the liver. This is the transverse section of the liver, so you can see how many are in there, right? And that would make the liver enzymes just go completely crazy. Be a lot of pain, all kinds of different things.
Our exam goes, that's how you.
It's next Thursday.
What?
Exam is next Thursday.
I asked before. So he's too.
So the 28th?
How about
Next Thursday.
Tuesday?
Next Tuesday?
Thursday and Tuesday.
We'll see.
Because it's 4 days later.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm pretty open to what day. Let's just wait to see when we get there.
I'm not emotionally.
That's what he meant by
Yeah,
go down.
you made a 97. Yeah, I think you're okay.
No, she made a 97. I made a 94, she got.
Oh,
I didn't
You got a 98 on the exam? Good job.
okay. So, let's see.
On the exam.
Okay, so here are the tapeworms. So I want you to know what a scolex is. What's a scolex? The head. And the scolex can either have just suckers or it can have hooks and suckers. And I want you to know what proglottids are. These are proglottids. The proglottids in the tapeworm contain both the male and the female sex organs. Therefore, they can produce a whole bunch of ova that are fertilized. And you see the genital pore here, they can release all those fertilized ova into the environment.
Oh, that.
Therefore,
that
you
little-
almost never have just one tapeworm. You almost always have a lot of tapeworms.
So that little section in that little square is a proglottid?
That is correct.
Okay.
Each of those little squares in that tapeworm. So look, Cindy, from here to here is a proglottid.
That's one.
That's a
And hold-
proglottid. That's a proglottid.
Both sex organs?
Okay.
So
Good.
would that produce like more tape, more, never mind.
You said they can produce.
A whole bunch of fertilized ova. Okay? Good. Sometimes, when a person has tapeworms, or when a cat or a dog has tapeworms, the proglottids break off and you can see them in the poo. And I'll show you what that looks like. So back in the day when I first started teaching here as an adjunct a long time ago, I would tell my students, be on the lookout for a recent roadkill, and I need a possum or a coon. And then they would call me up at the house and say, Pro V, there's a possum dead that just got hit. It's at the corner of Slaughter and Camp and McCullough. I'd go pick it up, bring it in, and we would dissect it. I can't do that anymore because ACC's got a lot of rules now. They don't want anybody to come down with any parasites. But one year, that we dissected a possum, there was over 63 parasites in that possum.
Like different parasites?
Wow, that's crazy.
Exoparasites, all kinds of different things.
And they can live like that.
Mhm. The possums eat everything, right? So they are not picky, right? But so they have all kinds of things. So I had a bunch of pictures that look like this. And we opened up the intestines and there they were. ACC does not let me do that anymore. Won't let me.
Is that diarrhea?
No.
Oh.
So here is
It's a
Taenia
worm.
saginata. This is the beef tapeworm. And here you can see it's only got suckers, but here it's coming out of the anus. You see it?
Oh, that's the worm itself?
That's the worm.
Gosh, that's long.
They get very long, up to 100 feet.
Damn.
Jesus.
Right. So it's an
Imagine
amazing.
that.
Uh-huh.
It just keeps going.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So
that gave me the chills.
So you can pull them out. You be very gentle with it. But what I would do if my animals were sick like that, I would give them an antihelmintic drug. It would paralyze them. The worms would release because they're being held by hooks or by suckers. They would release and out they would come with the food. Okay. But did I tell you this story?
Your doggy?
My dog, yeah. So my wife said, "Come to the park now. Bandy's sick." I'm like, "What?" It was tissue though, right? So she liked the lanolin and so it was all rolled up like this. It was coming out of her anus. My wife said, "You're the microbiologist." So I started pulling it out, and
It was tissue?
she ate a bunch of tissue.
Oh my
gosh.
god.
The fact that you say you just started pulling it out.
Yeah, like.
Yeah, I didn't have any gloves.
It was great. Must
That's
have
what soap and
been
water are for. This is Taenia solium. Taenia solium's the pork tapeworm. It has hooks and suckers. So there are suckers right there. And there's the hooks and there's the suckers. So again, sticks the suckers in and then attaches sticks the hooks in and attaches with the suckers. And now those things are fixed there for a long time. So these used to be sold, the larvae used to be sold as diet pills.
Oh, these are the ones.
But people nowadays, you can't bring them into the States, it's against the law. So people go to other countries, they get infected with them and then come back. Yeah, they're crazy. Elaborate life cycle. This is the most important of all the tapeworms. This is Echinococcus granulosum. And the reason that it is clinically important is because it produces these larval sacs, right? And inside of these are a bunch of the immature forms of the tapeworm. And the tapeworm are very small of these. They're one scolex and 3 proglottids, okay? So in the early, they have both sexes. So in the early days of the AIDS outbreak, in the early 80s, there was a lot of our colleagues, our citizens that were having infections by Echinococcus. And the epidemiologists and the people who were working up those people, they didn't know what to do. So they called large animal vets. And the large animal vets, we just shoot them. We just shoot the animal. We're not gonna shoot people. But there was just no effective way to treat for these because the only way you can save something is to go in there and surgically remove. But you see how many of these things are on there. It's not just these 2 clusters. I mean, you can see them, they're quite all over the place, right? They're all over the
Like
place
all
in
over
the
the
tissue.
tissue? Okay. Not
So
just
they're
single-
problematic, very problematic.
And how do they get through all of that? Like they eat through it or what?
Oh, yeah, they attach to different parts and then they take nutrients from those parts, blood, mostly blood. Here is some feces, this is cat, but you can see all the proglottids in there. Right?
So you can see that without even under a microscope.
Yeah, they're large enough, you can see them.
So I thought proglottids were the actual like pretend like this is the body and then this is the proglottids and that's like attached to their body.
It is.
So
But
then
these
how
things
is
can
it-
break apart. So, you see
So
the
they
little segments
break
here,
off?
the little segments?
Yeah.
Those are what those are. They break off. They will break off. Mhm.
Alright.
It's a good indication you've got tapeworms.
Oh, that's so gross.
Okay?
It looks like teeny, like one.
Okay, roundworms. So we just talked about Ascaris, right? Ascaris, if you have one Ascari and it's in the intestines, I'm not too worried. But if you have a whole bunch of them, they can
Oh my God.
they can cause intestinal blockage,
Oh my god.
which means that
Does that come out of the anus?
that is the anus.
Well, not being technical.
So
what did they do to make that come out?
So they gave them an anti-helmintic drug, and the anti-helmintic drug paralyzed all of the worms, and out they came.
Oh my god.
With a bowel movement.
That's a lot of work.
Oh, there's more.
So they had to poop in that position?
No. So usually so the only times I've ever seen this many worms, they had to surgically remove them because they were causing blockage.
Yeah.
So what they did was, it was a little girl from another country. They brought her in to Spahn Hospital in Corpus, and the pathologist and the surgeons knew that I was interested, so they let me sit in on the surgery.
This was when you were young, right?
When I was young, I was really young. And what they did was they opened up the intestinal tract, and then they used a retractor and they just started pulling them out. There was hundreds of them. There are some videos like that on YouTube, and also, I don't know if I have a Facebook page for this class, you can join, and on there's a video of a little girl or a little boy, I don't know, that has surgery, taking a bunch of mascara out. This is the hookworm, Necator americanus. It has teeth, and it uses the teeth to attach to tissues of the body. It can infect every single part of the body, including the brain, right? So here's a kind of just a histological side showing the worm attached to the intestinal mucosa of this particular organism. But it can go anywhere. This is the one where maybe if you grew up country, your grandma said don't go barefoot out in the field, right? Because there's a cow out there.
It'll be in your skin.
It'll go in between the toes, in that little area between the toes, it's so soft.
Oh my
there.
god.
Yeah. And then it travels up anyway.
Is that the one we seen yesterday?
Yeah, in class, right? Yeah. We're taking pharmacology right now.
Oh, same thing?
Yeah. Parallel to what you're teaching.
This is Trichinella spiralis. It's very, very painful. It causes a skeletal muscle infection. So you can see, so we have to be careful. There are cysts in the actual muscle tissue, the striated muscle. So we have to be careful when we're talking about cysts, right? Because it has to be understood by context that if we talk about cysts and we're talking about protozoans, that's the refractive protective state of the infected state of the protozoan. But when we're talking about cysts in the human body, it's typically a fluid-filled sac that can have other things in it. Are you with me? So we just have to be careful when we're talking about cysts, right?
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Good. So some of us develop cysts that have got like a bunch of sebaceous fluids in it, right? And so it eventually comes to a head, and there's like a big old pimple, and you pop it, and the stuff just starts coming out. Doesn't smell very good, right? Yeah. So those are pretty common. This is a pinworm. So pinworms are very common. Pinworm, almost everybody in this class has had them. You just might not have known it. Mm-hmm. So as kiddos, we probably have acquired it, right? It's very common, just by shaking hands. No. Just by shaking hands, if I had feces or was contaminated with feces on my hand and I shook Keon's hand, and then he ate a sandwich or whatever, then he could pick up the pinworm. They're very contagious. So if somebody in the family has them, everybody gets treated, right? So when my wife and I first moved here, we just gotten married, we moved here. We moved to the apartments right off of Parker Lane, you know where that is? Right off Lamar, pretty close to here. And we met the people next door, and the lady next door one night came over, she was crying. She said, come help me, I know you know about these things. And her little boy had pinworms, and there were 2 of them on the bed. And because usually, you know, what happens with pinworms is the female comes out of the anus when the body's at rest, lays her eggs, and goes back in. Well, sometimes they get confused and they end up on the bed sheets. And this lady was just crying. I said, it's just pinworms. I said, don't worry about it. I said, just go to the doc, get an anti-helmintic drug, everybody gets treated, and you'll be fine.
You
And then
always talk like everything is just
It is.
simple.
So I was trying to catch one to take it home with me, and my wife said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to take this to class and show people. She goes, you just leave it there, right? So, yeah, she didn't let me catch it. Sometimes she doesn't let me catch things. Sometimes I don't tell her I catch things.
Yeah.
Just take them out. This is a prolapse rectum. So usually the rectum is an innie, right? But if it gets so inflamed because of the allergic reaction that's occurring, it can become an album. So this is a rectum. It will eventually go back in when it is not inflamed.
But these things inflame it because they're biting it, or?
Not biting it because of the secretions that they have. Can you imagine Kayla, the faces she would be making?
Yeah, so her little hand on her mouth, she'd be like, oh.
She's working. Okay, so here again is the female. So the female is in the large intestines and she comes out of the anus at night or whenever the body's at rest and lays her eggs on the anus and goes back in. So one of the symptoms that you see with kiddos is a lot of times they might be itching on a chair like this, or they might be doing this right there. So when they're doing that, what you can do is let them go to sleep, and then you and your husband or whatever go in there, pull their undies down, spread their cheeks, and take a look at the anus to see if the female pinworm is there. If not, you can take a piece of Scotch tape clear and by this the kid's up and like, what the hell's going on? You press it to the anus and you put it on a microscope set and bring it someplace to somebody like me and I can tell you whether or not you got pinworm or not. Okay, pretty easy.
You're gonna
You'll do it.
vomit.
You'll do it. You never say you won't do
I don't know, I have so much fun in your class.
Well, that's good. Okay, here's heartworm, styrofilaria, right? So you can see this is really bad. So if you have a dog, on a monthly basis, you should be treating the dog prophylactically for heartworms. That medicine you give for heartworms will actually take care of a lot of other parasites also. And then the other thing you do is you want to treat them for fleas and mosquitoes, right? Mostly as a way to keep the fleas and the mosquitoes away, right? Because they carry other problems. Okay? So let's talk about the exoparasites. Give me a time chestinator.
1304.
Okay, so I have about 6 minutes. So you can see that the exoparasites are characterized by the number of legs. The insects, like the fleas, not the tick, that's an arachnid, but the fleas and the lice have 6 legs. I'm sorry. And the arachnids have 8 legs, the ticks and the mites and things like that, right? So here is one of the most beautiful organisms ever. This is a louse. This is Pediculus humanus. This is the body louse. It will infest. This is an infestation, not an infection. It's on the outside of the body. Huh? Crab. No, this is not crabs. This is just body louse. I'll show you crabs in a minute. But this one can get on the head, can get on the body, but not the pubic area.
Also, the hair.
Yeah, or not the eyebrow.
Oh, it's
because those are
lice.
different morphologies.
That's
So they
lice?
won't infect them. But you can see that they're so tiny that you have to treat with Lindane, and then you have to go in there and comb them out. My little sister, when we were young, she had hair as long as, let me see, who's got the longest hair in here? Okay, so as long as Carina's, and she got lice from one of her friends, and so my dad came in, and I just looked at my dad, and he said, Cindy's got lice. That's my sister's name, Cindy. I said, let's just cut her hair off. And my dad said, absolutely not. You and your mother go in there right now and take all those lice out. She had a bunch of them. So we shampooed her, killed all the lice, and then we were picking them out. My brother came in, he's got a weak stomach. So my brother came in, what are y'all doing? And I had a handful of lice in my hand, I went like this. He looked at me and goes, out. He was fainted. He woke up like 3 hours later and he moved out for 6 months. True story.
Wait, really for the lice?
Is it?
He was very good looking. My brother's got all the looks in the family, and he was not gonna have lice.
Use like grease or oil.
Well, so my black colleagues tell me that all the time. I can't. There's no studies. But my black colleagues tell me that all the time. They go, we don't have problems like that because we of the hair products. Right. I can neither confirm nor deny. It does make scientific sense, but I don't know.
Why so does it make sense?
Because they need to be able to hold on. Let me show you the body parts.
Yeah.
They have a little hook, and they hold on with that little hook. But if it's got grease, it's gonna slide off. Are you with me? So let me show you that.
My
They do
mom-
not like tea tree oil. So, or peppermint oil, or clove, or garlic, a bunch of these.
And so if you continue to wash your hair with that, it's kind of
Some people put garlic,
Yeah.
some people put garlic essential oil on their body to ward off things like this and mosquitoes, but you know, then you smell like garlic.
Is that real right there? It looks animated like Avatar. Is
No,
that?
no, it's-
It
yeah,
does.
so it is an artist rendition of it.
Oh, okay.
So I'll show you one that
That
looks
is
like
so
it's written, but this is
That's
this
your avatar.
is the crab louse. This is Phtharis pubis, and people are worried.
legs?
Some scientists are worried that Phtharis pubis is going to go extinct because people are, you know, managing their area. Are you with me? Their pubic area. They're manicuring it.
They're cute.
But what they found out is they also can infest the eyebrows. So I guess the crab louse is here to stay.
And eyelashes
What about
too, right?
eyelashes?
Eyelashes, really? Oh wow, that's
The crabs.
So it is considered a sexually transmitted infestation if you get them, right? But you can pick them up from fomites, from sharing pants and things like that.
Ants?
Can you get them?
Pants.
Some people used to say they can get them from sitting on the toilet.
Yeah, I've heard
Well,
that.
I guess you could, but I mean, how many people are gonna look at the toilet, see something crawl on it and sit on it now? So I don't think so.
That's how big they are? You can see them?
You can see them with the naked eye.
Are they like lice shaped? Lice
Are they
size?
what? No, they're bigger than mice. So here is the body louse. You can see the little hook it's got. Hey, Cheska, will you turn the light off for just a minute so they can see the little hook? See the little hook right here? But here is the crab
Oh,
louse
they
and it's
literally
got
look like
pinchers. Are you with me?
crabs, yeah.
They do look like that.
So, yeah. Okay?
Why does that say all you need is love?
Oh, because it's a sexually transmitted.
Oh,
infection.
okay.
So, they are still around, you just don't see them very much. I've only seen one case in my clinical, when I work clinical. I've only seen one case. And the physician freaked out when she saw it. Oh! And I said, Doc, what's wrong? She goes, come out here. And she said, why are you telling me this in secret? She needs to know too. This is a bed bug. So if you go to bed at night and wake up the next morning, you have all these welts all over your body, it was not one hungry mosquito.
Ew.
They're bed bugs. And so the bed bugs will live, this is of course the seam in a mattress, but they'll live everywhere in your house.
Oh my god.
Okay? So it's important for us to understand these things. They do carry certain infectious agents, but we're not gonna find them here in the States. But we do have a bad bed bug problem in Austin and lice problem in Austin.
Ooh, really?
In
Puts on my
certain
hair.
communities.
For real.
So if you are living in a house that's next to a house that has bed bugs, you have them also. Because they migrate. And the reason they know you're there is because they are attracted to heat and to the CO2 you give off when you breathe, when you respire. Okay? All right, we're gonna stop there for today because the Cheskinator has pointed at me. So, I'm gonna turn this on. So.